Last warning, back off.
I'm all about long, sullen silences, followed by mean comments, followed by more silences. So what's it gonna be, huh? Long, sullen silence or mean comment? Go on.
I'm the cure for a sick, sad world.
Red Hood was one of the most requested characters for Injustice by far, and when he finally arrived, he was extremely powerful. A jack of all trades with amazing pressure and basically every attack you could want. However, oddly enough, players didn't realize his true potential right away, making him one of the best surprise top tiers that NetherRealm has ever made. Before we go any further, make sure to subscribe if you're new, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like after watching. Without any further ado, let's begin. So first up, I want to talk about Lethal Lunge, because this move was broken in its own way, especially on release. As you can see, this move starts up very quickly and also travels fast as well, so at any point in time you can just check the opponent, and if they're not blocking, they're gonna get caught. And then on hit you have the option to meter burn for a bit more damage, but on block is when this move became busted, because it's -9, but look at all the pushback. You can't do nothing from this distance in 9 frames. However, it's actually the chip damage that made this move ridiculous. It got nerfed, but beforehand this move did more damage on block than Aquaman's Trident Rush pre-nerf, and that thing was absurd on block, which is honestly really confusing, and I think somebody at NetherRealm dropped the ball, because why would you nerf one character's chip damage just to give it to a DLC character later down the line? Talk about pay to win, am I right? So to summarize, we have a near instant move that travels very quickly, and even if blocked, it is completely safe, and if you did block it on release, this thing did a ton of chip damage, so already that's pretty nuts. However, on top of that, this move was also good for mobility. As long as you did it early enough, you would recover in time to block. And that's more useful than you might think, because Red Hood has a lot of moves that put the opponent in a hard knockdown state where they get up very slowly. However, if done in the neutral, it was a bit riskier, because as you can see, it takes Red Hood a bit of time to recover from the roll itself. However, if you had 1 bar of meter, you could actually shoot on the way in from the roll, and the attack hits mid, which means you can't duck under it, which means if you wanted to punish Red Hood, you had to wait for the bullets, block them, and then go for your attacks. And it is -9, so it is actually punishable, but here's the thing. What if you expect the bullets, but then he just doesn't fire them? That's right, he could recover in time to block before you realize the bullets aren't coming. Online especially, this fake out worked pretty well, just a tiny bit of lag or a bit of delay and the opponent wouldn't respond in time to punish. And one more thing I forgot to mention is that Red Hood does have a regular high hitting projectile, but as you can see, it travels kind of slow, and that's a good thing because he can actually roll in behind it. So when Red Hood was far away, it wasn't uncommon for him to throw out a mine and then throw out some stars and then roll in behind the stars. The mine would ensure that you block the stars, and then when you block the stars, you couldn't punish his lethal lunge. It's a 3-step system that was surprisingly effective, and that's just the first move. Next up we have Ground Mine, and this makes a lethal lunge look like child's play. This move is absolutely nuts. There's a regular version, there's a close version if you hold back, if you hold forward you get a far version, if you hold up you get a very far version, which is pretty much full screen. So put simply, no matter where you were on screen, you were not safe from Red Hood's Ground Mine. He had one for every distance. And then on top of that, the meter burn was the go-to way to extend combos. However, just like Lethal Lunge, this move was much scarier on block. As you can see, by default, it is plus 57 on block. So if Red Hood got you to block this thing, he could do whatever he wanted. If you pressed any buttons or let go of block for any reason, you were going to get hit. In fact, even the meter burn version is plus on block, only by 1 frame, but even so, it's still completely safe. So low risk and a very high reward every time you go for this move. If Red Hood went for a mix-up and you blocked it, guess what? He's completely safe. But now comes the scariest part, the mind games and the setups. Let's talk about the mind games first. So as you just saw, the meter burn explosion happens pretty quickly after the mine hits the floor. And as long as you had bar, the opponent was expecting the meter burn follow-up because it activates instantly, it keeps you safe, all that amazing stuff. However, the Red Hood player didn't have to do the meter burn version, and before the opponent realized they hadn't spent the bar, guess what? It's too late. The mine's already out and it's too late to jump. You have to block this thing. And like we just mentioned, the explosion is plus 1,000,000 on block, which means after you block this thing, he can go for a mix-up, he can go for a throw, just more pressure, guaranteed chip damage, all that annoying stuff. And as a result, when it came to online play, it was a really good idea to just throw out the regular mine every now and then. And because the opponent didn't react fast enough, they're now stuck blocking, which means guess what? More pressure, and you can do the whole setup over again. In fact, even when it came to tournaments, you would see shenanigans like this every now and then, because most opponents do expect the meter burn, but then nope, they're just stuck there blocking like an idiot, and now they're minus 1,000,000. When it came to mind mind games like that, this character was nuts. But next we have the setups. You see, a lot of strings leave the opponent on the ground and force them to block the ground mine. And as you've already seen, he has a ground mine for every situation. And as a result, the Red Hood player would almost always end their combo like this, and then throw out the mine, you stand up and you have to deal with this thing. If you wanted to backdash, he could shoot you, or he could throw the shurikens, any number of things. He had so many ways to force you to block that ground mine. Or to keep things even simpler, he could just throw the mine behind you so that when you backdash, you would end up right on top of it. Because keep in mind, you're stuck recovering after a backdash. You can't block right away. So if the Red Hood player expected a backdash, he could just throw a further mine and you would dash right on top of it. In fact, I've seen Sonic Fox do this at a tournament against Samij, who's a very skilled player, and it even worked on him. So once again, every time Red Hood hit you, he could do a hard knockdown of some kind, throw out the ground mine, and you were forced to block it. He could dash in, go for pressure, go for more block damage, more shenanigans on block, all that annoying stuff. And then once he had the corner, it was all over, because backdashing was no longer an option. You had to deal with this thing at the end of every single combo. And because Red Hood is left right in your face, he can now force you to block everything. And I don't know if you noticed, but the ground mines hit low. And guess what every character has in this game? A universal overhead. And as a result, the Red Hood had access to some very annoying, hard to block situations. Which was that, overhead or low? Which one hit first? Can you honestly tell me? And then what if he doesn't go for an overhead at all? Instead, he goes for a low. Uh-oh, you were expecting to fuzzy guard an overhead and then a low or a low overhead, and instead you got caught lacking with the double low. And then we have one of my favorites, the low into meter burn overhead after a second low. So that was low, low, overhead. Very tricky to block, especially online, or if you're a more casual player. This guy had pressure for days. But let's say your defense is godlike and you can block perfectly. You can crouch block the low and then stand up immediately to block his overhead every single time. You're the fuzzy guard king. That could honestly be the case, but guess what? You're still stuck blocking. He's still plus when he goes for the meter burn version, so at the very least you're taking some guaranteed chip damage. Or if the Red Hood player feels like it, he'll just cancel in the trait and go for even more mix-ups, because this thing had like 3 different options. It could be an overhead, it could be a low, and he had an unblockable that could be meter burn to extend pressure. And then if all of that wasn't bad enough, it also does some godlike chip damage, so even if you block the whole thing, if you're low enough on life, you're just guaranteed to die. So as you can see, the ground mine is quite ridiculous. And one more thing I wanted to mention, it makes his lethal lunge safe if you do it early enough, because if you try to punish him, the explosion will hit you and knock you down for a good amount of damage. And as a result, the Red Hood player could just check you all the time with this move. It gave him a bit more chip damage, but then on top of that, lethal lunge could catch you trying to jump forward or backwards a bit late, and as a result, you would get hit no matter what if you tried to do anything at all. Once again, your best option was to backdash, but the Red Hood player could predict that and just do a further ground mine. And you know what? There is one more thing I should talk about. If the Red Hood player just didn't have very much meter, he could throw out the mine on hit, and yeah, you could try to hit him and maybe you'd land something, but the explosion would still catch you. And as a result, the ground mine was a great idea on hit. It could force you to block more mix-ups or just more pressure. As you just saw, I went for a jump in there and the opponent didn't have very many options. So even if Red Hood didn't have meter, the ground mine was still a fantastic option. Alright, but we still have more moves to cover. I want to talk about Fatal Drop. This is very similar to Lethal Lunge, but just in reverse, and it's still great for getting out of the danger zone. I've witnessed Sonic Fox do this move 100 times on Wake Up. Unless the opponent's right on top of you, Red Hood could usually slip away in time. And then as you just saw, if you meter burn, you fire projectiles as you're retreating, which means most characters can't punish you even if they expect you to roll backwards. They could duck under it, but you can't walk forward while ducking now, can you? So as you can see, there's not many options for chasing Red Hood down when he does this move, because keep in mind, you can actually delay the meter burn as well, so if they jump too early, they'll fall on the bullets later. Once again, this move is deceptively good, and that's a theme for Red Hood. A lot of his stuff seems okay, but then once you dig deeper, it's actually godlike. This move is not invincible, but it doesn't matter because he gets out of dodge so quickly and he can cover his retreat as well. And I wanted to mention Akimbo Blaze too, because as you can see, it allows Red Hood to suspend himself in the air, and this made him pretty good at counter zoning. A lot of characters could not use keep away against Red Hood. And on top of that, the move hits overhead as well, so if done quick enough, it's a near instant overhead that the opponent's not always expecting, because normally Red Hood doesn't have any overheads. I mean, he has the forward 3, but as you can see, that's much easier to react to than this thing, which is darn near instant. And then if you felt like it, of course you can meter burn it to get even more damage, and a knockdown too, which is a big deal in this game against certain characters. So on top of having godlike pressure and an amazing way to get out of dodge, this character could also avoid a lot of keep away and zoning, which is a big deal in Injustice. This game has way too many keep away characters. So as you can see, Red Hood is quite a godlike character character, he is certainly a jack of all trades. He's great on defense, he's amazing on offense, he has some good ways to counter keep away, and he also has some parries. He can parry highs, lows, all that annoying stuff. So even if Red Hood didn't go for a mine on your wake up, he could still go for a KD parry and bait your wake up for some easy damage. Yeah, as you can see, this character has everything. If you want even more details, check out my beginner's guide on him that I made a long time ago. If you love Red Hood or you simply enjoyed my video, make sure to leave a like down below. It really does help my channel out a ton. And then keep that combo going by subscribing and ringing that bell. That way you never miss any future videos. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs.